Working Cows Podcast, episode 331. This episode is brought to you by Olson Ranch, LLC. This episode is also brought to you by Ranch Right, LLC.
Welcome to the podcast that gives producers a platform to discuss and share paradigm-challenging practices. Practices that have increased the effectiveness of their operation and the joy that their families have received from this lifestyle.
Howdy, everybody. This is Clay Connery, host of the Working Cows Podcast, recorded exclusively in the C90 Ocean Minerals Studios. And this episode is brought to you by Olson Ranch, LLC. This episode is brought to you by Olson Ranch, LLC. Wally wants you to know that he's got a couple of marketing schools coming up, one of them live October 31st through November 3rd in Claremore, Oklahoma, another one online December 5th through the 7th, and that one will be over Zoom. So whether you are able to get there October 31st or if you'd prefer to do it online via Zoom, there is that opportunity for you. Also, early in 2024, he's got another one coming up, January 23rd through the 26th in Claremore, Oklahoma. Links to all of that will be in the show notes page for today, so check that out. The school is great. I've been through it myself. He teaches you about knowing and understanding yourself. How do you fit into this marketing business? Figuring out your cost to carry, how to find overvalued and undervalued animals, stockmanship, and those kinds of things that help with gain and help with reducing stress and shrink at shipping. All kinds of things like that. Very highly recommended school. Very good networking opportunity as well. So I would encourage you to check out the show notes page for today and get registered for one of Wally's upcoming marketing schools. I also wanted to let you know before I welcome Tom Krawiec, today's guest, to the podcast, I wanted to let you know about the Krawiec Coalition's new agrarian program. They are accepting applications for the 2024 season. They've been doing this for a long time, where they have new agrarian apprenticeships available all over the country. And so they'll start accepting applications from November 1st until December 15th, or once all the positions are filled. Apprenticeships take place on working ranches and farms practicing regenerative agriculture across the Intermountain West. These 8-month full-time paid apprenticeships include housing and will allow apprentices to be fully immersed in the work of an operation. Program support includes in-person gatherings, an education stipend, educational Zoom calls, one-to-one check-ins, and networking opportunities to kickstart a career in regenerative ag. Apprenticeships begin in March or April and run through November of 2024. You can learn more at kaviracoalition.org/new agrarian. That's www.kaviracoalition.org/new agrarian. And those links will be in the show notes page for today as well at workingcows.net/331. Very excited to welcome back to the podcast after a delay. Yes, after a delay. Welcome back to the podcast, Tom Krawiec. He is author of the book, Ranching Like a 12-Year-Old. Really enjoyed that book, enjoyed the read, and have enjoyed having him on. And today we're going to talk to him about managing and training employees and some of the things that he's learned over the years and some of the heartache that's been caused by this not happening with people who have been apprentices of him. Tom has had apprentices in the past who've gone on to work at other places and haven't found a good fit because it wasn't they didn't feel like they were being taken care of in the same way and listened to and all those things. So we're going to talk to him about training and managing employees today on the Working Cows Podcast. Tom, welcome back. Thanks for joining me again on the Working Cows Podcast.
Do you know that it's almost a year to the day when you had me on before, and you had kind of promised me that you were going to get me on again. And it's been a year, and I was just thinking, I hope the heck he did not date his wife this way. Use the same technique, because that would have been a long courtship.
Well, if you ask my wife and I, it was long, but there was more contact for sure, and I apologize for that. I always say my interaction with this podcast is I'm like a cat with a laser pointer. If somebody points it in one area, I jump over there and chase it, and then I find somebody over there and they point it in another direction, and I jump over there and chase it. So I just I am easily distracted, and sometimes people bear the brunt of that. But I'm glad to have you back, and I'm especially glad to be talking to you today about this topic of kind of people management and honing our people management skills. And you'd reached out to me earlier in the month, and we're talking about kind of some experiences that one of your former apprentices has been having of late in ranch jobs. Could you tell me a little bit about her and her experiences?
Sure. Do you still have? I erased or I deleted the text that I sent you. Do you still have that text?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Like, are you able to read it? Because
Yeah.
you know what, it explains it very well. How this conversation got started.
Sure. Yeah, I can read it. It says, yesterday I received a call from a former apprentice. She is off to another job because the ranch she went to 3 months ago turned out to be the same as a former ranch. I feel very bad for her because she is very smart, engaged, hardworking, and on top of that, very funny. I don't understand how owners do not see what they have when a good person shows up. Invariably, all they want is a grunt who doesn't think, yet at the same time they want someone who does think, except that they expect their grunt to think the same way they do. Does that kind of capture it?
You bet. Yeah. And so it was interesting. Like I said, I think very highly of Maddie, and it's something that I see ongoing, and it's difficult to find. Everybody complains about the next generation and how, you can't find, nobody wants to work, nobody wants to do this, and they're crap. That has not been my experience. There's some people that they aren't a good fit. They don't, they're not engaged, or whatever. But there's way more people who are young people who are engaged and they want to work, but they get treated like, and nobody wants to be in that environment. And so why would you put much effort into something when, first of all, you're going to be probably told that it's wrong. You're going to be put down because you're stupid and lazy or whatever, these things happen. And well, why would you want to be there? And why would you want to, why would you want to be there? So anyways, a little background about Maddie. So she came and, so she worked with me for, I think, 3 months. That's what I kind of guaranteed her, that she could come for 3 months. And, she just turned out to be fantastic. But, interesting thing was, I remember the day she was asking me how we were going to set up this, the corrals, because we're bringing a herd of cows in, and I forget exactly what we're doing. And I asked her, well, what do you think? Because she had already been asking me a pile of questions, and it's just like, well, and she wanted me to spoon feed her all these answers. And I just like, okay, Maddie, what do you think? And so what that led to was this discussion about her not thinking, because she had not been put into that environment. She had always been spoon fed, and not because she wanted to. That was just the environment, I think, that she grew up in, and then the environment that she worked in. So it was just, okay, don't do anything until you get told what to do. And that's not what the team that I built, that's not what I want. I want people engaged. I want people to think. And the cool thing about when you get there, when you get these people thinking for themselves, that takes so much pressure off you. And yeah, so we had this great discussion. And then from that point on, I just, I just kept asking her questions and rather than giving her answers. And that's the only way that I know to get people to start thinking for themselves. And the interesting thing was that I related to her. I got my first crew in the fall of 1996 when I got set up drilling in 96. And I had the same problem with back then with getting people to think for themselves. I remember a fellow came from Avon from Montreal he came from Montreal. We were told that he could speak English. Yeah, he could say yes. That's how much English he could speak. But the cool thing about it was he was engaged, and it was the first time that he was making that kind of money. And it's a pretty motivating factor when you're making, holy crap, I'm making all this money. And again, he was really smart, and he picked up English very fast, and then he moved up in the ranks very quickly. But he had to learn how to think for himself, and he actually ended up starting calling me the question man, because he would come and ask me a question, and then I would, if it was something that I knew that it was definitely in his realm, I would start asking him questions about what did he think, what would he do. And you know what? Today, Avon is a rig manager on an offshore platform on the west of Africa, and that's pretty cool. And I think it was that start that he got of start thinking for yourself. And then the other part is building your team. And I learned that from my first tool push. I was very fortunate. I know a lot of guys, they have they experience on the rigs, on the drilling rigs, but that was not my situation. I ended up on a rig. I had a fantastic driller, and I had a fantastic tool push. And Dwayne, the tool push, taught me a lot. I actually talk about him in my book there. And he taught me this idea of, listening and training the person below you. And his saying was, train the person below you to do your job so that you can learn the job above you. And that was his philosophy, and then he told me, if you do this stuff, you'll be drilling in 3 years. And, surprisingly, I made it in 3.5 years. I was drilling, but that's because of his philosophy. And he developed a pile of drillers and rig managers with that philosophy. And the other thing that did was it built continuity into your team, as an example. So a derrick hand. Okay, so now the derrick hand needs to get some experience running the controls for the drilling controls. So, well, somebody has to go and take his place, up the derrick. And if you have the continuity, you already have probably at least 2 people trained that can go and do that sort of thing. It's no big deal. Just one of them, okay, go up there and I'm going to be on the controls today, so you go up the stick for me. And it's not a big deal because you built that continuity, and so then when that person gets set up drilling and goes to another crew, well, then everybody just moves up.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you're talking about is just a business approach to managing people. And I think that, we're the broken record here on the Working Cows podcast, but most of the problems that we face in ranching are because we don't treat it like a business. We don't run our ranches like they're businesses. We run them like they're lifestyles, and we run them like they're family heirlooms, and but we don't run them like they're businesses. And if we manage people like we are a business owner, then we're interested in those people being effective, not just extensions of ourselves to do something that's easier to do with two people than one. Is that kind of in line with what you're saying?
Certainly, I would certainly agree with that. I would go a little bit further in that often we don't know how to properly manage people. I would not have learned the things that I did had I not lucked out and got on that rig with Dwayne and my driller Ernie. I would not learn those things.
And what do you think are some of the key skills in managing people that you think should be applied to all businesses, including ranching?
Well, you know what? I came up with the kind of a 3-step process. I call it, it's just tell me, show me, watch me. And it's those 3 things. And once I formalized that, I put up signs, just little signs. I did it with the hydro testing company. And then I had one in my ranch office that just says, tell me, show me, watch me. And interestingly, there's a pipeline construction company that they kind of took that as their model for training people. And they added one more thing, and that's encourage me. And that's something that I just took it for granted, but I think it actually needs to be said. So maybe what I should do is just, because I think that is a key element, and like those steps, it's
Yep.
key. And, you have to start someplace.
Yep.
And so I think for someone who has never, didn't have the opportunity that I did, to get trained by someone like Dwayne, here's a great place to start. So the tell me part is simple. You just explain what needs to be done. And on top of that, you need to explain why, in my opinion, anyways,
Yep.
so that the person can have the bigger context of, well, why are we doing this? And then the second step is just showing them how to do it. And here I find it, what I like to do is make the point that this is the way I do it. Okay. And there may be some safety factors involved, so that you need to do it this way. But more often than not, this is just the way that I do it. And it works for me, for my skill set. So once you get comfortable with it, you can make it your own. But I'm more results driven. So as long as you get the job done, go ahead and tweak it for, so that it works better for yourself. And who knows, you might, I don't know how many times it's happened where, no person comes in and they come with fresh set eyes and they do something that's, oh my gosh, I've been doing this for how many years? Like, as an example, I remember there's one gal, Lara from Switzerland. We were doing some fencing, and have you watched my fencing video on my YouTube channel?
I think so.
So I have I use the polywire gates,
Mhm.
and then the little gate handle.
Right.
Well, I always leave some tail there so that if something happens, I already have extra polywire there. Well, I came up with that idea in like 2002, 2003, building those gate handles. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always messing. I always had this extra tail, and I was wrapping it and it just like, get tangled, blah, blah, blah. And it was annoying. Okay. And so I show Lara how to tie the bowl in, and, and we're out fencing, and then she's off doing it, building fence or gates or whatever. And then I come, and all she did was she tied the bowl at the end of the tail. There was no more tail to deal with. I'd been doing it like 18 years this way, and it was always a pain in the ass. And here she comes, and she just saw with a fresh set of eyes.
Right.
And so I just use that as an example that everyone brings stuff to the table. And I think it's imperative for an owner / manager leader to recognize that and acknowledge that everybody brings something to the table.
Yep. And I think that's the important part of this, is that we recognize we're not the ones with all the answers. We're allowing other people to contribute their perspective and their unique set of experiences when we give them permission to have input and to think for themselves. We're inviting all of those benefits into our businesses.
Exactly. And we have to set up a safe environment so that not only are we asking for their input, we expect their input.
Right. And they don't get in trouble for giving it.
And that exactly. And they don't get in trouble. So it has to be a safe environment.
What's the best context that you've seen work well for getting those ideas shared regularly and creating that environment?
Morning meetings or weekly meetings. So everybody's at the same table. Okay. I would say, I talk about Zeta, my first official apprentice in the book. And by the way, I wrote a book called Ranching Like a 12-Year-Old.
Yep.
We haven't mentioned that yet, so I should mention that.
It'll be linked in the show notes page for today. workingcows.net/331. We're talking about chapter 17, training employees, right?
Oh, good. You did read it. Excellent. Good. Yes. So I had, we'd have morning meetings, and then we would have a weekly meeting where we're talking about bigger issues. And sometimes if we were given like at that particular ranch, they had a feedlot. So then we were, things changed market wise. So then, oh my gosh, we have another, 1,800 yearlings that we're going to have to grass for another 6 weeks. So I need help. And, so then we sit down and we make a point of going to the office, sitting down with our paper or grazing chart, and we start the conversation. And so, but I have to tell you, that took a little while to build that safe space so that they understood that not only did I want their input, I expected their input, and I needed it to do a better job so I could do a better job. And then as a team, we could do a better job. And so, sometimes you have to start a little bit slow and just ask simple questions and to get that conversation going. And then, the last point in the step is the watch me part. You start with tell me, you show me, and then you watch me. And the watch me part is very tricky because you have to shut up. You have to keep your mouth shut, even though do this. No, you have to let them figure that out. You have to, because the goal here is to inspire thinking for themselves. Okay. So you do have to, you have to watch them to make sure that it gets done properly. But you have to stand back and just watch.
Yep.
And let them make the small mistakes, because they're going to figure it out. If you've done a good job in the tell me and show me part, they're going to say, "Oh yeah, I got to do this. I made a mistake here, so let's just go back and they'll fix it." But keep your mouth shut. And then in the meetings, like what you were asking me, how do you foster this environment? Shut up and listen. It's simple as that.
Yep.
It's simple as that, but it's hard because you always want to, and particularly when you are trying to foster, like if somebody is not maybe as bold, it may take them a little bit. It'll take, okay, is it safe to say what I'm thinking? And maybe they've never been in that environment where their input is appreciated. So, yeah, sometimes it's a struggle. You got to keep your mouth shut, and you can't be micromanager.
Let's take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor today, Ranch Right LLC. There are 3 guarantees in life: death, taxes, and paperwork. Ranch Right LLC can help you avoid one of them. If you're a successful business, you're probably paying some taxes, but that doesn't mean you have to be stuck inside preparing your paperwork for the accountant. Enlist the team of financial experts at Ranch Right LLC to get you back outside doing more of what you enjoy. They are committed to providing you with actionable financials so that you can build a profitable business and create generational wealth. While some things in life are inevitable, being mystified by our numbers doesn't have to be one of them. If you are ready to entrust your paperwork to a team of experts that actually enjoys this type of stuff, then visit ranchrighttllc.com and get back outside to the things you love.
Right. How do you think that this would solve the cases like the one we opened the episode with, where people move on after a short time because things aren't going well?
I have no idea, Clay, because I've been in that environment more than once myself, and I thought I could fix it. You can't fix that. You can't fix it from the outside.
Right.
It has to be.
It's a culture problem, right? I mean, you have a culture of micromanagement, and that's the problem, rather than a culture of tell me, show me, watch me.
Sure, you bet. And the other part, we have a culture of contrarianism. Do you remember? I have that. Maybe I'll just read it right here. Do you remember? I have in the book. I have a little funny dictionary and contrarian. And a contrarian, in my opinion, is a person who automatically takes an opposing view to anything you propose. It is a habit formed by upbringing or the crowd they hang with. Contrarians are very dangerous creatures and should be avoided like the plague. They like to criticize your dreams, your plans, and your life in general. So you put those two together, and you're not getting anywhere. Particularly as a young person coming in. And what I see is the only way for that to change is there has to be an epiphany for that ranch owner, that boss, that manager. And they say, hey, the reason that I have all like a revolving door of employees, it's at the top. It is not because people don't want to work and people are lazy. I got to look in the mirror. And once you get that epiphany, then it's like, okay, now what can we do about it? Yep. But until there's that epiphany, there's nothing you can do. In my opinion, anyways.
I'm talking more from a business culture, like every business has a culture, and that's usually set from the top. And so, like you said, unless the person at the top recognizes it, there's nothing you can do. And so I think that rings true in my experience as well. What about encourage me? You said that there was an addition of encourage me. Where would that fit in, or how have you seen that used well?
Okay. We were talking about before we started recording, right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So what happened was I noticed that pipeline construction company, they took this tell me, show me, watch me, and they added one more thing, and that's encourage me. And I loved it because for me, it was just a given that you do that encouragement. But often, you know what? If you come from that environment where the contrarian thinking and being a hard nose, that's the last thing that you would ever do is encourage people. But you need to encourage these people, and you need to recognize the small successes. And people work for that, and they are, they do just great things for you when you give them this encouragement.
Yeah,
I remember my first week on the rigs. I was going to quit. I was not going back. And anyway, so I go to the rig manager's shack. It was Dwayne. He never even let me start and say anything that I wasn't coming back. He just started giving me this speech about, yeah, well, if you just keep your head down and you work hard and you keep your eyes open and you see what everybody's doing and you work, you'll be drilling in 3 years. And it was just like, oh, my chest just popped right out. Yeah, he sees my potential. And then I was going there to tell him I wouldn't be back next hitch.
Yeah. Little encouragement goes a long ways, right?
Shocking. Yeah, it was shocking.
Yeah.
Before we leave this little bit here, I want to mention, so I'm not the most mechanical person. And it's actually, like, I think back and it shocks me that I was ever a driller sometimes, because how the heck did I look after all that equipment when like I said, I'm not very mechanical. But one thing that I always made sure I had a very good motor hand. And they carried me, for all that, like, looking after all the motors and just the mechanical stuff of the rig. They carried me, and I needed someone like that because that was my weak point.
Just recognizing your weak points and finding people that complement that well. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
That's exactly what I'm talking about, Clay. You bet.
I think that when we do what we do on a ranch and we do it the same way all the time, we get proficient basically in a lot of areas, and we don't recognize our weak points, and we avoid doing it a certain way because of our weak points, and so we don't have those things revealed to us very often, and so we aren't aware of them maybe as keenly as other professions where there are certain things that have to be done, and if you're not very good at them, then you're going to have to find help to get it done. And so I think that, ranchers, again, back to that whole business owner mentality, we have a lot of opportunity to find other people to bring them in to help us do the things that we're not very good at to make it more successful. And we all go farther together than anyone could go alone, I think is another idea that is getting communicated here.
Huge, man. Huge. Yeah, you know what, like as an example, just, in terms of ranching, I talk to a lot of people that, with grass management. Okay. So you need to, I talk about the grazing in the sweet spot. Well, to do that, you have to be moving. You have to clip and go. And you're calving and lambing at that time as well. And if, a lot of people invariably, everyone that I talk to, when I talk about this, well, you can't move these newborn animals. And I really hate the word can't, because invariably there's somebody in the world who is doing what you say cannot be done.
Yeah, a better way to say that is, I don't know how to.
That's right, but we don't do that. And there's a difference. When you start thinking, I don't know how to do this, well, now you can go and learn. If you choose to. But to say it can't be done, you're lying to yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Big,
And
big difference.
yeah, which is why I did the wave video. I don't know if you've seen that, the wave video on my YouTube channel where, I moved those 325 pairs, very young calves, all by myself. Because it was just like, it can be done.
A lot of these lessons for you seem to have come from the oil rigs. Is that true?
I would say so, Clay. You know what? Like I said, I was very fortunate to have Dwayne as a leader and a mentor. Very fortunate. And then the other thing, I read a book by General Rick Hillier called Leadership. And he just expanded on it. He actually talked about finding those gems, in people, and putting a lot of energy into those people, because he talked about, if you put 6 of those people together, they have enough energy there that they can lead a battalion of 1,000 people. And that's pretty powerful. I actually saw it. I remember, I think I was working for my dad and my sister in their hydro testing, pipeline hydro testing company. And I had this one guy, and he asked me if I'd hire his girlfriend. And I said, sure, because, anyways, so I hire her. She shows up, not at all what I thought. She looked like she had a girl head on a 13-year-old boy's body. That's how tiny she was. And I was like, oh my gosh. In fact, my dad saw her and said, what the heck did you hire her for? And I was thinking the same thing. But as things went along, she definitely didn't have skills. But she was a hard worker. She was enthusiastic and engaged. She didn't even know how to use a hammer. But she learned that. And then I started watching her, and she was getting a lot of stuff done. And so, okay, we're around the shop there. And I remember the first time I gave her a list of stuff, and I gave her 2 people. And I said, okay, she's back in 45 minutes. And I was like, what the hell? And she said, I'm done. And I said, you can't be done. Like I knew that I couldn't be done. So anyways, I went and checked, and everything was like spot on, like just really good. And so then I just kept going and giving her more people and more chores. And it was just like, I remember giving her 15 people at one time, and it's just like, and having the trust and the faith in her, that knowing she would do a better job than me. And she was the most organized person I have ever met in my life. And so I was asking her about this, and she was telling me how at 12 years old, she slept on the top bunk of her bunk bed, and she wrote on the ceiling at 12 years old, organization is the key to success. and, and her mom was pissed when she found that writing on the ceiling. But yeah, Sandra just, I don't know, but she did not get a chance. Like I was the only one, I would say, that saw that potential in her. And so we have to keep our eyes open.
I don't think that I could spell organization at 12 years old, Tom.
Well, you know what? Most people can't spell it at 50. So, it's a big thing. It's
Do you think, though, this is maybe on the other end of the spectrum, do you think that we overwhelm people by asking too much of them too soon?
I'm not sure, Clay.
Yeah.
I think we can sometimes, but I think it's a fine line, and I do have that discussion, and it was actually with Sandra that I first started doing this. I put her in situations where it was pretty scary for her, but it was stepping block, right. She had steps to go there. And so I was very confident that she could handle it. Yes, it was going another step, but I was confident that she could handle it. But what I told her, because I knew she was pretty scared. But what I told her, I said, I'm very confident in you that you have the skills to do this and you'll do the right stuff. But if you fail, this is not going to be catastrophic. You will fail, you'll learn, and we'll carry on. But I'm not going to ever, and this was my promise to her. I said, I will never put you in a situation where if you fail, this is going to be catastrophic. So you'll fail, right. Yes, and we'll clean up the mess, but it's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, you know what? And it was just like, it was pretty cool. I remember, like I said, you have to remember her stature.
Mm-hmm.
She is a tiny person, and having the wherewithal, and you know what? Also, I think that the respect for me to stand up to consultants, you know, these men that are much more her senior and definitely higher in the power dynamic, standing up and saying, no, this is the way we're doing it, because if we go this other way, it risks having a spill, or, you know, we can damage some equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that's pretty cool. Like, and again, it's a stepping stone. You can't start up there. It's you got to remember, you have to have those skills to start and build up to something.
Right, and that's because that's what it sounded like. You started her off with a couple people, and by the time you're done, she's got 15. You know that, or maybe that's not where she was done, but I mean she worked up to that, but it wasn't. She didn't start with 15, so that's kind of what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, you bet. You have to. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that, you know, respect, also trust. She trusts you that she's not going to be put in a situation that she will be. That will be catastrophic if she fails. You know, those are other things.
Yeah,
she's got it.
And you know what? I set up an environment, a safe environment. So, like I said, I expect not just input, but you know, I'm not just asking for their input. I expect their input, and so that safe environment sets up the scenario where, if I'm doing something stupid or I say something stupid, someone's going to come and say something to me at that moment. And, you know, I mentioned it in the book. It happened to me. And I remember this gal, like, she was 19. And she basically told me, hey, what are you doing? You taught us not to do that. Oh, yeah, sorry. But I knew I did my job, even though I was embarrassed that she had to correct me. But I knew I did my job, and now I can trust these people. I can trust them, and let's go and do something cool.
Talk a little bit about providing feedback and some of the ways, the good and the bad ways to provide feedback for people in the event of failure or something along those lines.
Well, you know what? The positive way is just having the discussion and asking, well, what do you think? Because I think for me, that's the best place to start. What do you think went wrong? And because, you know, if you've done these steps, you know, tell me, show me, watch me, encourage me, invariably, they'll know what they did wrong. And so I don't have to do anything. I just have to make sure that they knew that what they did wrong, and let's get it figured out.
Right. I think, but the place where that happens is important, right? I mean, the timing of those conversations, the audience for those conversations, I think is important. Would you agree? Like, sure. Is it in the group? Is it everybody there watching this conversation, if it's, you know, or is it fairly private, you know, later after cooler heads have prevailed, some of those things? Do you see?
Oh, yeah, I don't know how to answer that, Clay, because, you know, you have to play that out. It has to be in a respectful manner. And the safer environment that you have, in my opinion, anyways, it's easier to have that respect. that you just, because you just automatically, it's, you can be harsh, but it comes from a place of respect because it's in a safe environment. And the part where I get embarrassed for myself is when I start yelling. And because I have come to know just for myself now, if I ever get to the point where I have to yell, or not I have to, where I yell at a person, that person should have been fired weeks ago. Because I've tried all these things, I've tried to bring them up and explain, and we're still not getting where we need to go. And so when I hit that level of frustration where I tip and then I'm embarrassed by my behavior, they should have been gone. Mm-hmm. And because then I have to go back, and yes, I may not like them, and I know that I'm getting rid of them, but I still have to show them respect. Mm-hmm. I owe it as a leader to go and apologize. Mm-hmm. Yep. And say, yes, I was very angry, and I'm still not condoning your behavior, but that was out of line for me to go and start hollering at you.
Talk to me about the process of firing someone.
Crap. Clay, I hate it.
Yeah, everybody should.
I freaking hate it so much. And however, this is something that I learned when I was drilling. I had a crew, and I'm the leader of my crew, and that is part of my job, and that is my commitment to them. That if somebody needs, we need to replace somebody, we need to get rid of this person off our team, I owe it to all these other guys. Because if we have a person like that, they're picking up that slack for that person, and it's not fair to them. And so, and it's just a matter, I hate, like, too many times I've had, but you know what? It still has to be respectful. Mm-hmm. And you have to say exactly why.
And it's not the first conversation you've had with the person.
And
it's probably not a shock to them, right? I mean, you've had conversations with them leading up to that said, hey, these are the things that need to happen, or we're going to have to, part ways.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I've never threatened anyone to fire them if they didn't improve.
Right.
It just, when it came the time, they were gone. It was never a threat. It was just like, okay, let's see if we can pick this up, and what do you need and stuff.
Sure.
I remember letting one guy go. He was just an interesting guy. He came from another country, and he worked on the rigs in that other country. And I found him very interesting, and I found him very enjoyable to be around. He just was kind of lazy. And it was not fair to my other guys who were fantastic workers to be picking up his slack. And again, that's my responsibility.
Yep. Is there a process that is gone through typically for you, or do you, what does it look like for you?
Okay. So, I firmly believe, if you have 3 months, I don't know what it is in the US,
sure,
but in Canada, you have 3 months, and you better step it up and make that decision in 3 months. But I'm pretty confident, as long as you're following these steps, tell me, show me, watch me, encourage me, you will know, probably in a month, you'll know if that person's going to fit.
Sure.
But you have to step up and take care of that in 3 months. Or if you have to do it after 3 months, then there's a whole protocol that you have to go through, and you have to pay severance and all this stuff.
Right.
And to tell you the truth, I'm not I'm not aware of how to do that after 3 months. Because I put, really, I put people through their paces in that first 3 months. And I learned that from the rigs.
Yep.
You have to find that out. And because it's very easy to get rid of them. But you know what? I know, we're spending, what 10 minutes talking about firing people or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That is such a small part of it. It's this other part that we should be talking,
Right. Yep.
And people don't talk about it.
Right.
People talk about, young people don't want to work. And, it's just like, it's always it's outside of me.
Yep.
But yet, every 2 or 3 months, I'm having to replace people. And because you can't hire,
right.
People don't want to work. Young people are useless. Well, and you know what, Dwayne, getting back to, I learned so many things from Dwayne. And actually, you know what, I know this is blowing smoke up his ass, and it'd be very funny if his buddies heard me say this, because they'd razz the hell out of him. But honestly, Dwayne is probably the smartest person I ever met in the oil patch. Even though he didn't, he didn't have post-secondary education, but he certainly should have. But he just knew so many things. It's just amazing. But one of the things that that he always said, you cannot find a good hand keeping a bad hand. So getting rid of somebody sucks.
Yep.
It does.
Right.
If you're, maybe some people enjoy it, but I'm not one of them. I hate it. I dread it. But that person is always going to be a placeholder.
Right.
So.
Yep. Yeah, that's very good. No, I do agree with you. If we can come up with a process for making, investing in people, tell me, show me, watch me, encourage me, something like that, then it's going to solve a lot of the problems that we would be facing on the back end. So I'm totally with you there, and I really appreciate that. Is there anything else that you think needs said in regard to this topic today?
Okay, so I mentioned the leadership book by General Rick Hillier.
Mm-hmm.
I'd recommend Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. That really turned the things for me on hiring people. And this idea of the contrarianism, like it's rampant. It's absolutely rampant. I'm sure that you know exactly what I'm talking about, and it's hard to have a conversation with. It's, for me, anyways. It's hard to have a conversation with somebody who, every time you bring up something, they're quashing it even before they consider it, and it's something that's done unconscious, and because it's become a habit.
Yep, for sure.
And so, you know what, I would encourage people, okay, sit down and, am I a contrarian? Look in the mirror, and am I encouraging people? Am I organized? Do you remember seeing that picture of that big whiteboard I had in my office of it was Monday to Monday.
Yep.
And that was the to-do list. Okay. That was hugely powerful and empowering for like I remember when I had Maddie, Zeta, and Zeke, like the four of us, like we were like the dream team. We got so many things done, and a big part of it was, well, of course, they're high-powered people. They were engaged, smart, and hardworking. So of course there was that, but we had this this whiteboard of our weekly plan. Everybody saw it. So if someone was done, whatever they were doing early, well, they had, okay, well, what's on the agenda for tomorrow? And we got a lot of stuff done. It was just amazing what we got accomplished. And I'd love to find another ranch where it could bring them all back and we all work together, because it was so much fun being in that environment with them.
Yep.
So
Yep.
does that kind of, is that what you were asking for?
Yeah. Yeah. Just other things that you've learned and things that you thought needed said with regard to this topic of training and managing employees. So yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Cool. Yeah. You know what? I like the tell me, show me, watch me. And I really like that, that add-on of encourage me.
Yep.
And just a reminder.
Yeah. The one go ahead.
No, I was just, one other thing that I was going to, that I think needs to be mentioned is, okay, I better be careful how I say this. You can't, well, I was going to say, don't cut people slack. That's not it. That's not how I want to say it. I want to say, okay, you know what? I'll just come out and say it. It's, for women, young women, I know that a lot of guys, men, they have this attitude that women aren't that capable, and you got to cut that out. And you can't, you have to put them in the situation that you would a guy, and give them the same opportunities and expect the same results.
Mm-hmm.
They may do things differently, but everybody does things differently.
Mm-hmm.
Give them the opportunity, but don't baby them.
Right.
And the other kind of the corollary of that is that I feel bad for, like as an example, Maddie and Zeta, very competent. They are going to have fewer opportunities than guys, because the generation of owners that are looking for people will not see them as being capable of managing,
right?
As an example. And I feel bad for them, but I've worked with them, and I know what they're capable of, and so don't cut women short.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure. Yeah, no, the one that I always use when people ask me about that is I do, you watch, I do, you help, you do, I help, you do, I watch. So it's kind of the same. Tell me, show me, watch me.
That's great, Clay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of the apprenticeship paradigm, and I think that's the same thing you're talking about. Tell me, show me, watch me. It's the same. I think it incorporates the watch me incorporates the last two steps. They're doing the majority of the work, or you are, one or the other. But at the end, that's kind of they're doing the majority of the work in the watch me section, and you're there just making sure it goes well, and then turn them loose once they've got the hang of it. So, yep.
Yeah, totally. You betcha. That's great. I like that. And you know what? I think all I did was I just formalized it and I put it on a poster.
Right. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Like I said, links to the book will be in the show notes page for today, workingcows.net/331. And we'll put a link to your YouTube channel in there as well, and Robert Kiyosaki's book and others. So
that'd be great.
Thank you for your time today.
One thing that I just, before I go, I'm just writing an article, and I'm going to do a YouTube video on how to evaluate your pasture production.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's something that doesn't get done. Nobody's doing it in numbers and then bringing it down into dollars and cents for how much grass you produce. So just a little note to whoever's listening to this, by the time they listen to it, I should have a video on my YouTube channel explaining how to do this evaluation.
Okay. Yeah. Be looking out for that.
And thanks again for, I thought you were giving up on me, but it's nice to be back after a year, man. I'm glad I wasn't dating you.
Me too.
Cool.
Oh, Tom, thank you for your time today.
You betcha, buddy.
Very good stuff there with Tom. Really appreciate his perspective and just his heart for employees to be cared for well. And, it just comes through even in a discussion about how do we deal with employees who aren't measuring up. It comes through that he has a desire to see those people cared for well. So I really appreciate that. Looking forward to next week on the Working Cows podcast. I'll be sharing with you a talk that I recently gave at the Montana Farm Bureau District 6 Fall Fest in Glendive, Montana. Was really honored to be invited up there. I'm going to share with you my keynote talk from that event next week on the Working Cows podcast. We will see you again real soon with another episode of the Working Cows podcast.
We invite you to visit workingcows.net to subscribe to the show via iTunes or Stitcher. You'll also find detailed show notes pages, resources from our guests, and the industry leaders who have influenced them. For more ideas on putting your cows to work for you in a more profitable way, tune in next week.